Hey folks, my name's Kevin and it's time for a little bit more knife nerdery, and today we have a first for the channel because what's in this box is a gift. Just a gift, not even like a loaner to check out or anything, but literally just a gift. And that's never happened before. That's absolutely wild to me, but incredibly cool. I have absolutely no idea what's in here. I don't even know what category it is. I do expect that it is something that is made, because the guy who sent it to me, his name is Mike. Thank you so much, Mike. But the guy who sent it to me said, and I quote, "Just a small token of appreciation for the work you do on YouTube and whatnot. The maker," that's the hint, "will appreciate seeing it on your page as well, I suspect." Mike is a guy that started messaging me about a haptic that I posted not too long ago on my Instagram feed. He's just a big knife nerd like me. And one of the things we bonded over is the fact that we both have a small blue Taro Tough chopped mini smock. His is by a different chopper than mine, but what an incredibly cool thing to have. And so that's what I'll use to unbox this. The only other clue I have about what's in here is, do you notice how you don't see the edges of this box? It's because it's one of the big mediums, not even like the smaller of the two medium size, it's the biggin, but it's really lightweight. The entire thing weighs 12.5 ounces, and the box itself I'm pretty sure weighs around 8 or 9. So whatever it is large and very, very light. So let's take a look at what is inside. A lot of bubble wrap. Oh, nice. Oh, wow. Oh, cool. Okay, so this is a leather valet tray. These are they're kind of thing where it's made out of a single sheet of leather, and then it's folded up around, and then it's riveted. I think this looks like riveted. Sometimes they're snaps. I don't know. Maybe this is snaps. Let's see real quick. Is it snap? I don't know. I don't want to break it. I'll try that maybe later, or maybe I'll just ask him. And so that forms this three-dimensional shape. And then this one is going above and beyond. Most of them are just a single sheet like that. This one has an additional very thick piece of leather put down here at the bottom that's very sturdy, and then it has these feet attached as well, and that is giving it, it even has one in the center, and that lifts it up off, but also gives it a lot more rigidity. Oh, it smells so good too. Oh, I love the color of this. This is so freaking cool. Okay, so this is Alibi Leather Goods. I've seen that name, but I don't actually know this maker. So I will definitely be checking them out because this is super freaking cool. Mike, this is awesome. This is so kind of you. And I don't have anything like this, and I have considered getting one many times because it's a very practical thing. It's great for just kind of stashing your stuff in on a dresser or tabletop, and I have right now just a pile. So that's perfect. Wow, that's cool. That's so nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, this does seem very, very nice. You can see this is a leather that has slight pull-up. Pull-up is whenever they're leathers like Chrome XL, which this honestly looks like it might be Chrome XL, but anyway, leathers that are tanned specific ways have oil content in them that will dissipate as or be kind of pushed around as the leather moves and stretches. And so when you bend this, you see how it's lighter where my finger is going? That's called pull-up. And that is, it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just a cosmetic thing, but people love the way it looks, and I love the way it looks. And yeah, so it's fun to see that. And it also means that it will kind of develop more patina and character as it ages. This is also the kind of leather where you can oil out kind of scratches on it or anything like that, but it also will just develop more character as it does get scratched. So in other words, this is the kind of leather that ages. This looks so nice. Stitching on this looks really, really nice. Wow. Yeah, this is incredibly nicely done. It's funny, people that know me well will know that before nerding out about knives really, really hard, I actually nerded out about leather goods for a really long time. I got really deeply into handmade shoes, loosely handmade shoes, handmade as well. I don't own any handmade shoes. Those are wildly expensive, but craftfully made shoes, all the various different kind of welt types, all the different construction methods, all the different names of the different types of leather and tanning process, all that kind of stuff. I nerded out super hard for years. And so, yeah, I'm pretty darn familiar with leather, and I know when leather feels nice, and this feels really, really nice. This is so cool. Okay, I should probably give people an idea of just how big this is, because if you want to look for one, I don't normally do measurements too much, but this is what? Roughly 9.5 inches by, what's that, 6.5 inches? And the plate inside looks to be 5 by 8. So that's a really nice size for things like a wallet, which I do not have on me, it's in my drawer. That, maybe a pen, maybe a ridiculous knife, maybe another leather product. This is the case for my Bolomo little jeweler's loop. Anyway, this is so cool. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. This is a really, really cool gift. I absolutely will use this, and it means a lot. That's very, very kind of you. Hey, so I wanted to film a quick follow-up to elaborate on what I mean when I say this is really nice stitching, because this kind of stitching you see here is not done by a sewing machine. This is done entirely by hand in a very laborious process that's called a saddle stitch. You might have heard that term before. Basically, the way that you do this is you start by making your line guide. You lay a ruler down and use a scoring tool, or you use like a grooving tool. It could be the same one he used to make these kind of folds here along the side. Anyway, you do that to mark your line. Then you have to mark your stitch points. And there's a thing called a pricking iron, and it basically looks like a fork with a bunch of little tongs on it. And you line it up and you hit it with a hammer. There's also something called an overstitch wheel, I think, and it basically looks like this spur on a cowboy boot, and you run it over the edge in that channel, that line, along that line you made, like a pizza cutter, and it pushes in as you go with the little tiny points that are on it. And basically what you're doing is marking the points that you will then pierce with an awl. There's something called a saddle awl, there's a stitching awl, they're all kind of subtle variants, but as you go, you pierce through at the spots that you made. And you're working with 2 different needles at this point, and working from both sides at the exact same time as you go. And this is where it becomes really important, the difference, because this, if you look at the way like a normal sewing machine will do a stitch, there's a line that runs along the bottom, a thread that runs along the bottom, and then there's a thread that's being pushed up and down with the needle that's hooking that one and looping it and pulling it up through. And the result is that if you sever that anywhere, if it gets worn out and breaks, the entire thing can just unravel. And that's not the case here, because as you're going, you are looping it over. Like you put one needle through, you loop over, and you put the other needle through, and you're actually making a little tiny knot every single time as you go. And then the thread itself is usually like lin cable or tiger thread or something like that. So it's a waxed thread. And so the wax, as you pull that knot, seals it and prevents the knot from coming undone. And so if any of these break, the ones that are next to them won't unravel because they're still tied off at every single step of the way. And that's awesome. But do you need that kind of durability in a leather valet tray? I would say obviously not. You need it on something like a saddle, which is where it gets the name of saddle stitch. But it's a really, really great sign to see that kind of high quality, traditional, and high craft stitching method put into this thing. And it's very in line with everything else you see here, like the fact that there is the stabilization thing and there are these lifters that are made of brass. This entire thing just is oozing with high quality, high effort, and high craft production. And I love to see that. Now, okay, let's talk for a moment about how do you know if saddle stitch is good or bad? Like what makes a good saddle stitch? The first thing you'll look for is how straight this line is. And I know earlier I said that you will use some kind of guide, but you still then have to follow that line. And so if you imagine taking a fork and trying to place it on here and then place it again and then place it again, it's really easy to make little tiny shifts as you go. Or if you're rolling a pizza cuttery shaped thing on this, it's really easy to kind of wobble as you go. And so you can see he did a really, really nice job here, that there is a very even border this entire way. That's great to see. The next thing you would look for is how they do these corners, because like I said, you're making this this line here out of individual little segments that are themselves straight. And so to make a curved corner out of straight individual segments is actually kind of hard. There are guides that you can use to trace that circle, but you still have to line up those prongs to fit just right. And he did a really nice job with these curves. The next thing you'd look for is how you bind off down here. So this is where they end. So you can see he went back over and then came back. And this is actually very nicely done. He used the exact same holes just right and everything like that. You can see that there's no loose threads. You usually melt the wax and then tamp it down with a hammer. And this is the kind of thing where you can tell it ends here, but it doesn't distract. It looks very, very clean. It does not look like it's going to come undone. Another thing you would look for, though, is the spacing. So I said that tool that you use, or the various versions of it, they mark where you're going to make your stitches, but you still then have to stitch through in a way that is hitting those marks correctly and in the right consistent angle and everything like that. And what's interesting here is that there's actually a difference in spacing here than there is here. I measured these. These are all at about 2.75 millimeters. That's, I think, something like 9 or 10 stitches per inch. And then these are all at about 3.5 millimeters, somewhere between 7 or 8 stitches per inch. And the thing is I talked to Mike afterward, after I unboxed this, and he told me that this is actually a prototype. And I looked, and I'm pretty sure this is actually literally the exact one that's in the product shots on the Alibi Leather Goods website. And so I would suspect that actually this is part of the prototyping process, that inconsistency there, because it's not uncommon at all when you're prototyping a new leather tool, a new leather product, to play around with what you want your stitch spacing to be able to see visually what you think looks better given the overall layout and size and everything like that. So the fact that these are all very consistently tighter and the fact that these are all very consistently wider means I think that's probably a side effect of that. But anyway, the end result is that the construction method on this is really, really nicely done. Like, it's a really high quality, durable, handmade, high craft construction method itself. And the actual implementation of that method is really, really nicely done. So overall, this is just great work to see. I love it. I love it. I love it. Hope you enjoyed this extra information, and I'll catch you guys next time.